Okay, so by now you know that every time I turn on my Maxxair fan, which is a 6200, it does this. I was at my wit's end. I dealt with Maxxair's customer service for over a month, and here's what happened. Okay, so here's what Maxxair said. They said initially that the PC board, which is this, was fried. And it was fried because my Goal Zero, which powers everything, either put out too much power or too little power and fried the board. So they said they would send me a new one. And in fact, they said they would send me the upgraded one that handled power fluctuations better. So they sent it to me, and this is what I got. And it looked identical to the original board. And when I say it looked identical, it had the same code on the resistor. It had the same code on the chip. The board layout was absolutely identical. So I tried it, and it was the same thing. It didn't work. And so I called them back, and they said, oh, we must have sent you the wrong board. So get rid of that board, and we'll send you a new board. So they sent me this board, which looked exactly identical to the first two boards. And I tested it just in case. I've gotten really good at putting the board in and out at this point. I tested it, but it did the exact same thing. So they said, get rid of that board too. So they sent me a third board priority overnight, which never arrived. And I called them a week later and said, I need a tracking number for that, but because it never arrived. And so they said, well, we'll send you another one priority, not overnight. And I got it 4 days later, and it looked exactly the same as all the other boards. But I tried it. And it didn't work. So I did a couple of things to make sure I wasn't crazy. I put the new board in, and I powered it directly from the 12-volt accessory plug on my van, and it did the exact same thing. I tried it with another smaller Goal Zero unit, and it did exactly the same thing. And then I started measuring power. So I had an old analog multimeter. I bought a digital multimeter and saw that my Goal Zero was putting out 12.2 volts fully charged, and I felt like that should be fine for it. And it dipped a little bit as you cranked power, but not that much. But I was sort of losing my mind as to what could go on. I checked the power coming out of the 12-volt plug on my van, and that was 14 and change. So it did seem like the Goal Zero wasn't putting out quite enough power. I find it hard to believe I could have fried the first board, not putting out enough power. So I posted some questions to Reddit, asked if people had any problems, and I thought that the very first response was the best. All it said was, Maxxair is overpriced garbage. Someone said that, hey, your unit should be putting out more power than that. 12.2 is like dead battery. It should be above 12.7. And so I reached out to Goal Zero, and they said, no, for that unit, that's correct. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they said. I also exchanged my unit, got a new one under the recall. They're both putting out the same power, which is 12.22 when fully charged. But in any case, too little power, while it could turn off the fan, it wouldn't have fried the board. Then someone on Reddit had made a brilliant suggestion. They said, you know, you could just pull the circuit board out, run power directly to the motor, and get yourself a switch. And I had thought of that a few days earlier, but it seemed like I would never be able to find the right switch. So I was like, you know what, let me look. And immediately I found for like 20 bucks, a 2-direction potentiometer, right? So essentially a volume knob with a forward and a back. 20 bucks. I had it 2 days later. I tested it out, and it freaking worked perfectly. So here's what I have now. So this 10 watts that I've got on is the 3 sets of lights that I've got powered on right now. But essentially, I turn on this switch, turn this knob. Now I'm putting out 26 watts, 24 watts. And look at that, my fan works. Change directions. And when I check power going out, 12.1 volts. That does seem low to me, but Goal Zero says that that's normal for this unit, which doesn't surprise me. Goal Zero does a lot of things their own way, and if they decided to regulate the amount of voltage going out of this, that wouldn't surprise me. So here is the lesson that this left me with. Initially, I thought this was a van life lesson, but I realized it's just a life lesson. And the life lesson is, don't be afraid to improvise. Right? This was a super simple solution. Just run power directly to the fan, bypass this piece of junk board, and it is possible that I could end up frying the motor. That's the only thing left in the damn fan that's electronic. In theory, I could, but at this point, I can replace it. I've replaced everything else. That's the worst case scenario. But think outside the box. It occurred to me that I could just replace this and put in a switch, and my brain said, oh, you're not going to be able to find a switch. You can find anything on the internet. That's the beauty of the internet. This is something that I got from a friend in the military. Rule number 13, adapt, improvise, overcome. And that's essentially what I did. And that's a great life lesson for van life in particular, because, you know, nothing that we do is off the shelf immediately going to work. People are building their own electrical systems. People that have never done it are building out vans, are running power, are running water, are running sewage. We're essentially building RVs on our own. Right? And you've got to be able to sort of adapt and improvise what you've got. There is not a straight angle in this van, not because I didn't do a good job of building it, but because it's a van with curved walls. Nothing is straight. And you have to be able to sort of work through that. And it's a great lesson for van life. It's a great lesson for life. And that's honestly something that I started thinking about when I worked in the film industry, is we would just figure out how to fix it. And that's what we had to do. And so, no more boards. We're plugged directly into 12 volts. Adapt, improvise, overcome. If this is working for you, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you outside. I lost my wind. Johnny is literally sailing or paddling in circles around me.